Okay, hello my friends, welcome to Ups and Downs, and listen, something has happened over the last few days, so we are going to do something a little bit different. So basically, we here at WhatCulture received an email that I am going to read out to you, but first, let me introduce you to... That's right, it's me, Auntie Simon, like one of those agony aunts you get in the paper. So, it's from Liz, start the music, let's go. Could somebody talk to Simon Miller about the volume of his ups and downs? My husband has no interest in wrestling, and every time I put it on YouTube, it is so loud that while I am frantically putting the volume of my TV down, my husband is yelling at me to get the volume down. Simon is the only host on your site with this problem. The noise bothers me, and it's not helping my marriage. So all I'm gonna say is that husband too, Liz, am I able to turn down? No, I'm not, because I'm a crazy person that shouts when talking about pro wrestling. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna shout out this: I love you, person I don't know. Now, hopefully you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. Right, that was weird. Raw's in the books. Let's up those downs. How cool is this too? Because the very first person we did see on this Monday night show was Jey Uso, which means we have done all this work with the bloodline, and no matter what you think about it today, we have turned this dude into a proper star, and I think that's fabulous. The crowd was also going nuts for him as he did make his way through the audience. This is when I saw a sign that said, "This is the Simon section." So I'm just gonna be that guy. Here comes Arrogant Alan. I think we should all make this a thing. That's right. Everybody bring Simon section signs to wrestling shows. We're really gonna piss some people off. Can you imagine though? It'd be a bunch of ups and downers celebrating at every show. I shouldn't have said ups and downers. It sounds like some kind of drug you really don't want. Michael Cole also reminded us that it was Cody Rhodes that brought Jey Uso to Raw, when he also muttered, "Oh, Cody used to be an EVP, and he can get things done. So don't you tell me, Simon Miller, that there's no AEW WWE War. This was shots fired. And long may it continue." Uso's justification for being back so soon too was basically, I know, I quit WWE, but I didn't realize I could just come to Raw and get away from my crazy family. So that cracked me up. I mean, he didn't say this, but he kind of inferred it. Jey Uso has no idea about the structure of the company. Really made me laugh. And what must have been dream time too, Sami Zayn's their music hit, and he was the guy interrupting. And you know the deal with this pairing. They have the greatest chemistry ever. He also set the scene because he was like, "Listen, Jay, I'm just out here to tell you, there's a lot of people in that locker room that don't like you. Because for essentially 3 years, you run rampant through WWE. And you did some really bad things." He also mentioned that Kevin Owens wasn't here tonight, and I'm just going to make this up and speculate that this is seed planting, because I think we're going to get to WrestleMania 40, and not only will it be Jey versus Jimmy Uso, but it will also be Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn was different for the people he had mentioned though, because he was so happy Jey Uso had broken away from the bloodline. He's standing on his own 2 feet, and he's proud of him. So am I. Zayn then wanted to shake his hand, but Jey was all like, "No, I'm not going to do that," when he did a little bit of a chuckle and said, "That wasn't very Usy of me," and these two hugged, and I just stared off into the distance, and I started to cry. There was also an excellent tease after this as well, because Drew McIntyre's music hit, and he walked out, and he looked at Jey Uso like he was about to steal his kilt. And you would do this too. Like, I know it was Solo Sikoa that murked him at Clash of the Castle, but obviously the Usos were involved, so McIntyre probably wants to kill this guy. So I do like it when WWE remembers, and I really like the fact that Jey Uso is being treated like this. Imagine I told you a few years ago, you would never have believed me, so this is top tier sports entertainment work. It's getting it up. I think all this video with Shinsuke Nakamura when he was all like, "Well, maybe I did underestimate Seth Rollins a little bit." And I was like, "Yeah, Shinsuke, you did." Even still, he was the last man standing because he had need Seth right in the back. And one day, he shall be the world heavyweight champion. When I searched my feelings, I was like, do I believe this? No, I don't. This then continued because Ricochet was chatting to Adam Pearce and basically saying, "Listen, man, I know I lost at SummerSlam, but I deserve an opportunity." When Seth Rollins walked in, He was basically doing a bit of a dance. Pierce freaked out about this too because he was like, why are you here, Seth? You've got a bad back. This really makes me chuckle. He's had this injury for like 4 years, but now we're talking about it, nobody can take it anymore. Ricky too was also like, dude, you need to delegate, like they were working in finance or something. But Rollins was like, man, I'm okay. I'm all good. If I'm able to walk, which I can do, I'm coming to Raw. Because look, he's fine. His back is good. His teeth are white. His hair is wet. But actually, if you look directly into his eyes, and this was the point, I don't think he's telling the truth. This is also when we got to Riddle taking on the Viking Raiders, and dare I say it, maybe I, Simon Miller, have been wrong about WWE. They are going to pull this trigger on the Drew heel turn, and I tell you, I hope I am incorrect, because this is going to be rad. We just continue to tease it throughout this entire episode of Raw, and this is just what McIntyre needs right now. I can't explain it, but sometimes you search your feelings, and your tum-tum tells you, yes, this WWE superstar needs to turn heel. And you're like, why the hell is my stomach telling me this? And it's just because life is weird. He also did that thing where he pretended to hug Riddle when he threw him into the Vikings. And I just think this is a really mean thing to do to someone because you're sending out such conflicting emotions. As it was a no DQ match as well, Riddle then pushed Drew and said, get the tables. This was actually quite funny because McIntyre pushed it back and went, no, you get them. I was like, that's so petulant. They, of course, did go and get them, but before that, Drew was trying to hit everybody with the Claymore kick and failed, which was Eric was here. He saw the wood and was like, well, maybe I'll throw you through the thing, but he wasn't able to do it either. Thankfully, Riddle was able to make the save, so Valhalla was like, well, if you're getting involved, I'm going to do it too. But I think she must have cast the wrong voodoo or said the wrong spell, because all of a sudden Kofi Kingston was here. I bet Valhalla went through her ingredients and looked in her pot and went, oh man, I didn't mean to summon him, damn it. He totally flubbed it as well though, because he went to hit the Trouble in Paradise on the Raiders. Instead, he just smashed Riddle right in the head. So the Vikings were like, all right, after we've pillaged this town, we will hit you with Ragnarok through the table, 1, 2, 3. And guess who was really mad about this? Drew McIntyre. He also looked at Kofi like he was about to rip his head off. And look, let's not wait around with this and let's just get to the good stuff. We did it with RK Bro, and I don't think Drew and Riddle have the same kind of chemistry. Let's just turn McIntyre into some kind of murdering Scottish man. I quite like this now. It's getting me excited. Given that we did have our big Gunther versus Chad Gable Intercontinental title match for our main event, we then got this really cool video focusing on the IC champions of old when Seth Rollins came to the ring. Why not? Now, I did like his match at the weekend. I liked it a lot. And when it comes to Seth Rollins, I think he is underrated because he never has a bad performance. He always brings his A game, and we should be shouting it from the rooftops. The thing is, though, what he did say here, I thought was a bit gibberish. He was like, man, I really struggled at Payback. My back was giving me a hard time. I was like, bro, I watched that thing. You were giving Nakamura superplexes. Now, of course, he did justify this by saying that Nakamura was able to leave the arena on his 2 feet, and as he was going to admit, he had to go out on a wheelchair, and it was Becky Lynch pushing him out. So now, he is pissed off about this, because yeah, if you had the choice, would you rather walk out of somewhere or be in a wheelchair? I mean, you can figure it out. He also told Shinsuke to get here right now, and Nakamura's here instantly. I mean, he was just stood behind the curtain going, I tell you, if he says the wrong thing, I will go out there. When all of this went 2 + 2 = potato. Because Rollins offered Shinsuke Nakamura a title match right here, right now. I was like, what the flub are you doing, man? You beat this guy clean in the middle at the pay-per-view premium live event. There's literally no reason to do it, even if he did knee you in the back. Just call him a goober and move on. And then it got even more strange, because Shinsuke said some stuff in Japanese and then went, I've heard your challenge, and the answer is no. That's right. He got offered a World Championship match. Earlier on in Raw, he said, I want to be World Champion, but here, nah, I don't want to do it. So maybe he just wants to go and play Starfield or something instead. And of course, these two got into a brawl when Adam Pearce and a bunch of security guards broke them up. I tell you, these security guards, they are totally rubbish. They're never able to do anything. I mean, why do we even bother? Pearce and Seth were then shown yelling at each other in the back because Adam is like, why do you want to hurt yourself? When all of a sudden, it was Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I started spinning around. What is going on? Now, I will say this was very good because of course it was, and at one point Judgment Day were watching on from the back. When Ricochet went for a 450, he missed, Nakamura got back to his feet, and he still got slammed with a recall for the 1-2, ooh. They went for a senton off the apron, but Nakamura moved, and that landing looked like it absolutely sucked when Shinsuke just got a chair and went blammo. And of course, this meant it ended in disqualification. I mean, are you kidding me? He was then going to break Ricochet's neck with this chair when Seth Rollins was back out to cause another brawl, when there were more security guards. Useless, I tell you. Useless. Sometimes balls. Rollins then did a big old dive into Nakamura, but it was actually Shinsuke that was able to grab him and push him into Simba the Steel Steps, who was like, my back, when Ricochet was back, and he chased Shinsuke off with a steel chair. So all of this was totally nuts, and it was kind of hard to buy into, because if this was the plan, and if this was what WWE wanted to do, why the hell did we have such a clean finish at Payback? And I like the fact it was so clean, it was just two titans having a wrestling match, but now you're kind of like, well, it kind of feels like we're out of ideas. So look, I'm being a massive nerd here, and there was nothing bad about this, and these two are very good professional wrestlers, but sometimes this is just what happens. You can't enjoy every single angle on wrestling TV. There are hundreds and hundreds of episodes, so unfortunately today, I gotta give it a down. But if you liked it, more power to you. Rick versus Shin, and I regret saying that, was very good though. I don't want to forget about that. So in terms of the match before the ending, up. We also then cut back to Judgment Day, and this was so damn good because Rhea Ripley turned to Damian Priest and just said, "Not tonight, mate," because of course she's in control and she has surveyed the situation, and it ain't no time to be cashing in the briefcase. We were then interviewing Zoey Stark, who was all like, "Listen, I do respect Trish Stratus, but you're not allowed to put your hands on me," when of all the people, in walked Shayna Baszler. And they did have this very passive-aggressive conversation when it turned out they were going to wrestle later. And instantly I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to like how that's going to go. We'll talk about it. This is when it was time for the Judgment Day to have their proper in-ring segment. And it was Dominic Mysterio who started here. And even though he was trying to say, look at us, we have all the championships, we have all the gold, we are brilliant, everybody booed this guy. And look, it's just fun, and I tell you this, I like fun. It is such a good idea though, because when you do have a stable and they are littered with titles, they just look so damn dominant, which is when Finn Balor got the microphone and said, I would also like to thank myself, because now I am a tag team champion, it means I've done the Grand Slam, which is true. So I tell you, man, this Finn, he is totally awesome. Ripley then put a rubber stamp on it because she was all like, look, we're a family again. Although I tell you what has pissed me off, we had so much success over the weekend, and what is everybody talking about? Stinking Jey Uso. It doesn't actually matter though, because as far as she's concerned, the bloodline has fallen, whereas the Day of Judgment are in control. When Damo was gonna do something, when here came JD McDonagh. Oh no. Now I have no idea what this guy's up to in his spare time, but he went up to Damien and said, listen, I don't think you should hold that briefcase anymore, because I've made you spangly new one. Now, of course, it's purple, and he's just got a sticker and stuck it on there, and it says Senor. But this is what he does, I guess. He sits at home and he makes briefcases. Now, Priest was very happy about this. His face lit up like a Christmas tree when Sami Zayn interrupted. He was like, did you not think I was going to come out here? You screwed us over at the pay-per-view premium live event, and I want revenge. He also called them championship-stealing turds, and that Dominic was the biggest turd of them all. And this is why Sam is so good. That is one of the worst insults I've heard in ages, but when he delivers it, I laughed. Zayn then challenged the condom, but this is when JD McDonagh got involved again, and he was all like, well, actually, I think I helped screw you too, so if you want a match, why don't we go at it later instead? And then this thing got booked. This was really good though, mostly because the Judgment Day have established themselves as a force, and again, here's my prediction, somehow they will screw over Damian Priest, and somehow Kevin Owens will screw over Sami Zayn. I don't know where this is coming from, just going crazy, but I am giving it an up. We then had another IC title video as we cut to Gunther, who was all like, Chad Gable, who do you think you are? I like to think he meant this literally, and he doesn't actually know. He is going to ensure he wins later though, because then his legacy will be established, because he will become the longest reigning IC champion in history. I tell you, this Gunther man, he totally rocks. But they just had more crazy stuff because we saw Raquel Rodriguez leaving Adam Pearce's office when Chelsea Green walked in there, and they were like, man, Piper Niven is sick at the moment, so she won't be cleared for a while. So once again, these damn women tag team titles, they are cursed. Chelsea then started saying what an absolute moron Raquel was. So of course she heard this, meaning even though she left the office, she must have had her ear to the door. She came back in, and yes, surprise, surprise, we're also going to do this match later. So it really was a little bit of an odd Raw, although it was very entertaining, which continued under both those lines, because then it was Shayna Baszler versus Zoey Stark. and I audibly said out loud, well, who the hell is going to win this? Because really, when you do break it down, Stark absolutely needs a victory after what happened at Payback, but so does Shayna. I mean, she went missing for a few weeks, but before that, she essentially retired Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam. Shayna did start by working over Zoey's arm too, when Stark was able to come back by pushing Baszler into Alan the announce table, and she also hit a dive. And do you want to know why she hit a dive? Because it's the sponsor of 2023 wrestling. Stark then hit a German suplex, and she wanted to follow this up with the Z360, but Shayna must have leveled at her meters by this point, because she then just reapplied the Kirifuda clutch, and even though Zoey fought for quite a long ass time, eventually she tapped out. I did like the fact we allowed Stark to fight so much in this, because she came across like a warrior, but I'm not sure this helped anyone. Especially because afterwards, they looked at each other. I was like, I'm sure Zoey is gonna bip her one, but she didn't. And they fist bumped, and they both just walked off. So really, that was that. And I'll tell you what the biggest problem was. Roll it. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Heel and Face. And for the first time ever, we have two people on the boards. We have Shayna Baszler, we have Zoey Stark. Let's spin those wheels. That's right. The answer is, we don't actually know. So as ever, what the hell do I know? And I really do like both of these guys, which could be the problem. Maybe I want too much. But in terms of the match, I'm giving it an up. But for doing this in the first place and giving an L to Zoey Stark, well, I'm giving it a down. And now you're shouting, Simon, you're such a wrestling geek. Yes, I am. Sometimes that's the problem. But then cut back to Finn Balor on the Judgment Day, and man, I was on the floor. Because this was like going up to your partner and trying to pick the best moment, because you really want to go away for the weekend with your friends, and you're waiting for the best time to ask. Because Finn realised that everybody else was in a good mood, so he was like, oh, hi, maybe it's time for JD McDonagh to be in the group. What do you all think? Priest shot this down because he thought McDonough needs to prove himself more, so I guess making you a bespoke briefcase isn't enough. When they asked Dominic, he was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe you guys should decide. He is the best character. Ripley was happy to wait and see what JD was going to do against Sami, and after Damian Priest and Finn Balor had left, she grabbed the condom and said, listen, you know what you've got to do, make sure you get it done. So I thought this was really smart because it was a cliffhanger, meaning you had to keep watching. Ripley is so damn intimidating, she came across like Skeletor, although once again I was laughing, because during this whole segment, they were sat in a Judgment Day themed room, like they had the color purple, they had merchandise, meaning within the story, they must have set this up before the show. And just that visual, I love it. Which is when Raquel Rodriguez crushed Chelsea Green. Nuts. I think Chelsea's only offense was a crossbody, and that was an absolute waste of time. When Raquel grabbed her with the Pommer Power, she hit it, 1, 2, 3, and we were done. I mean, this went about 2 minutes. We then found out what Rodriguez had been talking about with Adam Pearce earlier, because she got on the microphone and said, yes, I did get screwed at the pay-per-view premium live event, so I am getting my rematch next week, and Dom is banned from ringside. And again, this is fine as long as Rhea Ripley does win, because she should stay undefeated until WrestleMania. And this time, let's do a big old hoss fight. That's what I want to see from these two. Run into each other like massive tanks and just bip each other. Now, I can't lie, it did make me a bit of a sad panda to see Chelsea Green just get squashed again because she is so damn good. But this one did make sense. I can see where we're going. Giving it an up. It was then time for Chad Gable to respond to Gunther, and this guy was so good. He's like, man, I've already made history. I'm an Olympian, I've got my PhD, and with my family in the front row, I'm about to become the Intercontinental Champion. Because nothing compares to his desire to take that title, and look, we will get to the main event in just 1 second, but at some point in the future, Chad Gable has to win this belt, because we have just turned him into the ultimate babyface, and I tell you this, I totally love it. I'm not sure Drew McIntyre would agree though, because we were then with him, and man, he was mad. Because Riddle was trying to calm him down, which was like telling a bull not to charge at you and here's some tea and crumpets, because he was like, look, I've already been screwed once by Kofi Kingston, and now Jey Uso is walking around the place, so if he does one thing I don't like, I will go to the source and I'll deal with the person who brought him here. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Cody Rhodes. That's the match I want. Kofi then popped in. He was all like, really sorry about what happened. But once again, McIntyre didn't want to hear any of this. And this is what we got to do. Drew has to kill him. He has to kill Riddle. He has to kill Cody and go on the biggest heel tear that we have ever seen. So please prove me wrong. For the love of everything, prove me wrong. Everybody else does. But look, I am plugged in. Up. And incredibly, we went from this to goofy wrestling for life. I jumped out of my seat. Because The Miz was here doing Miz TV, because of course he was, and he wanted to talk about the fact he had lost at the weekend to LA Knight, but he was like, it wasn't my fault. John Cena was a special guest referee, and I blame him. This is when he invited Big Match John to the ring. I can't believe it's taken 20 years to do this. But Cena's music did hit, but of course, he wasn't there because you can't see him. But WWE went all out with the production. The cameraman was running around. He followed him into the ring. I thought this was tremendous. It carried on as well because The Miz was actually talking to an invisible man, and the punchline was, I've been able to see through you for the last 18 years. Because you pretend you're a good guy, but you're actually a piece of crap. He also asked him why he screwed him at the pay-per-view premium live event, and of course, not there Cena did agree, which is when The Miz got into a fight with the air and even gave him a skull-crushing finale. We do not respect The Miz enough. He is the best. He also brought up the fact he did main event WrestleMania, which was 13 years ago, and I think actually said he is going to have a rematch with LA Knight. Look, as long as La win that one, I don't really mind. But at the end of the day, you know me, I'm still the same old G, and I just get a kick out of the silly stuff, because especially Raw, it's 3 hours long, it can't just be serious, because I'd want to smash my own head in, and I just thought this was a tremendous segment. It made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. Goofy wrestling for life. Giving it up. Speaking of wonderfully ludicrous characters too, we then saw Jey Uso walking in the back when Tozawa walked up to him, didn't say a word, but looked right into his eyes like, wow, I can't believe you're here. Well, he just walked off again. We also got a massive tease because Jey did bump into Adam Pearce. He was like, look, I'm really happy to have you here on Raw, but eventually somebody is gonna have to be traded back to SmackDown. And of course, this is when we can start going, oh my gosh, it's gonna be Cody Rhodes, and then he's going to be on the same show as Roman Reigns, and we can do that at WrestleMania 40. And what am I doing now? The Dance of Joy. And when you do break it down, this made no sense. Because imagine you did this in any other walk of life. Yeah, just one loaf of bread, please. No problem, that would be £2.20. Of course. I will pay you in 7 weeks. What? It also ended with Tommaso Ciampa walking into Pearce's office, and while we didn't hear anything, they better have been discussing where the flub is Johnny Gargano, because he has disappeared recently, and nobody seems to care. This is when we did indeed get JD McDonough taking on Sami Zayn, and everything was on the line. I mean, not really, that's hyperbole. Sami, of course, had this match won with the haluva kick when the condom turned out, and he just went crazy with the distractions to the point Sam had to go to the outside of the ring and punch him in the face. He would not stop doing this though, so Zayn got so fed up, he totally forgot he was in a match with JD McDonough, which is when JD snuck up behind him and hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. You have to laugh, bring down the counter, goes up by 1. Now look, we did need to do this finish because McDonough had to get the win, but also, when you do this move, the most devastating move, nobody actually buys it as a proper win, because WWE does it all the time. The post angle was really good as well, because Zayn just started to whip everybody's ass, and even though JD McDonough did save the condom, he just ran away after that, leaving JD in the ring to take the haluva kick. And as the commentator said, well, I mean, JD McDonough helped him, but I tell you, the Judgment Day did not reciprocate. And yes, I do think it's a shame that Sami is losing again all the time. Gonna have to bring back the Sami stock meter. Although, that was pretty terrible a few years ago. It would definitely be terrible again today. Even still, up. This sort of tied into what came next too, because Dominic Mysterio was back, and he had found Jey Uso, and he wanted to do some manipulating. I was like, oh no. Jay's so bad when it comes to manipulating, it's gonna happen again. I do want to underline how good this Jey Uso stuff was, because again, all the good guys don't really like him, whereas all the bad guys are like, look, he used to be a dick, we need to tempt him back to the dark side. Because Tommy Boy was all like, listen, we're from broken families, we all need friends, we always need loved ones. I have found that in the Day of Judgment, so why don't you join us? Look, Jay didn't really say yes, and he didn't say no, but he was thinking about it. You could see it on his face. Now, obviously, he will turn them down, but once again, it's called a story beat. This was really good stuff because it ran throughout the entirety of Raw, but it was nothing compared to our main event. This was fabo. Now, I cannot say enough good things about WWE and what they've done with the Intercontinental title because it feels like such a big deal, and a massive part of that is Gunther, and right now, the other massive part is Chad Gable, because these two, when they come together, well, it's a thing of beauty. They started off by wrestling on the wrestling show when Gunther started to chop this guy, when Chad's great plan was, oh yeah, I'll chop you back, which was essentially the same as trying to hit a wall. because the ring general was all like, ha ha ha, as he was M. Bison, and he chopped him again. This actually sounded like a gun going off. But then cut to the commercial break, and yeah, when we came back, Chad Gable was just in control, because he was going after Gunther's leg. So as always, we're going to have to try and figure out what happened on our own. So what I think is...
Are you sick of being bald? Tired of people going, you have no hair? Well, we here at Bald Brothers have found a solution. All it takes is one Hair Be There pill, and look, you will have a wonderful mane and never be sad again. Hair Be There, gone yesterday, back now.
I have never felt better. Which then meant that Chad was just hanging out with a zebra. I didn't see that coming. They then both went flying over the top rope because Gunther was trying to do a power bomb, but Chad didn't want to do that. And given that they were on the outside, Gable then gave Gunther a damn German suplex. That's verrückt. It was a great tease because as soon as they got back in the ring, Gunther was able to hit the powerbomb for the 1-2-ooh. But this is when Chad came back with the superplex and the flying headbutt, and he also got a 1-2-ooh, and I was losing my mind. He then failed with the chaos theory, but seriously, you have to go and see this move, because seeing him do it onto Gunther was absolutely incredible when both guys decided, let's go for finishing moves, because Chad Gable did this crazy reversal off a moonsault into the ankle lock, when all of a sudden Gunther topped that, because he had him in a sleeper. Somehow Chad then turned that into a damn pinning combination. I was like, well, that makes no sense. It must have been voodoo. And because Gunther hadn't let go of this choke, he then turned it into this like back suplex. Chad Gable landed right on his head, and I freaked out. He also raked him with another powerbomb, which was also disgusting when he hit him with the stiffest lariat you've ever seen, and he pinned him for the 1-2-3. But this was such a good performance. Nobody really lost here. Although it did make you feel all sad in your tum-tum, because we cut to the crowd and Chad Gable's kids were crying. This was so well done, though, that we could easily justify a round 3 and Chad Gable should win the Intercontinental Championship, which is doubly good because Gunther won here, which means in a few days he will break the Honky Tonky Man's record, and he should do. He's had a terrific run, and he deserves it. Raw then ended with Gunther standing tall as Chad was in the ring like, well, man, I've had a terrible, terrible day, but we're onto something with this Gable man. Do not drop the ball. It is getting it up. Which brought us to the end of Raw, and look, while I found a few downs in there, I admit today that was me being a little bit of a sensitive Sally. This was a terrific episode, and I'm giving it a damn up. Now, of course, please do go into the comments and let me know what you thought about WWE's Monday Night Show. Click this video here, which is ups and downs for payback, so you can see what I thought about that pay-per-view premium live event. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, WhatCulture.com, follow us on social media, but ultimately, as I always say, have a terrific day, because you deserve it, and you deserve some love. See you soon.